Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, and I am again back with another video on Flutter, and this time I have made a crash course on Flutter in which we will create this cool simple app in which there is a grid of Pokemons and you can select one of them and it displays the more information about that Pokemon, and also it changes the title on the top. You can navigate front and back and you can click on another Pokemons as well. So we are going to create this app completely in Flutter, and we are going to make this course for complete beginners. So if you don't have any experience in Flutter, you can still follow this tutorial and you will learn everything from scratch. So yeah, let's start with the coding part, and I hope you will like this crash course. Starting, there are some things that you will need to download to start with developing Flutter. So first of all, you will need the Visual Studio Code editor. This is a free and open source code editor that most of the developers use that are developing with Flutter. So make sure you have Visual Studio Code downloaded, and also most importantly you will need to install Flutter, extract it and add it into your path so you can use Flutter. I will not show that because this is a crash course. You can follow the Flutter docs or any video that you want to check out and install the Flutter framework. Then after installing these two things, you will need to come into the Visual Studio Code that you just downloaded. Now inside Visual Studio Code, you will see this screen at the beginning. So at the left, you will see some tabs. Just click on the extensions tabs, which is the last or the second last one. Just click on this and first of all search for Flutter right here, and install the first one, that is from Dart code. Just install it, and this will give some Flutter snippets, and also we want Dart, so install the Dart code, the Dart which is from again Dart code, and this will be also very handy if you are developing with Flutter. So these are the things that you will need to start with developing. So after you have this, we can start with creating our first project. The next thing is that we want to create a new Flutter project. So to create a new Flutter project, open up a terminal, and inside terminal go to a directory where you want to create the project. So for me it will be in documents, and I have created a project or created a directory called Flutter dev. I will redirect to that directory, and inside this directory I want to create a new Flutter project. So I will type Flutter, then we want to create a new project, so create, and we will give a name to it. So we will name it Flutter mini course. Then after naming it like this, make sure to add underscore instead of space. So Flutter mini course, and hit enter, and this will create your first Flutter project in your directory. And as it says, all done, and we have successfully created a new Flutter project. Now after creating a project, we want to go to that project, so we want to open it in Visual Studio Code. So to do that, we will change the directory to what it says, Flutter mini course, and after mini course, and after doing this, we want to just open this directory in Visual Studio Code. So we will add code and space and dot. So after doing this, this will open the Flutter project that we just created inside Visual Studio Code. Now we don't want this terminal anymore, so we will quit the terminal, and here we have created our first Flutter project. So congrats. After starting the project and opening the project in VS Code, this is the default directory that we are redirected to, and in this there are many folders, but you don't need to be confused and go through all the folders, because then you will be very confused and you will not be able to pop up. So just you need to focus on this library folder, that is lib folder. If you extend this, you see a main.dart file here. In the main.dart file, this is our default app that we have from Flutter by default. Now if we run this app, let me open up the simulator. So if you are using Android, this will be the same. Just start your simulator. I will do it by just quitting it and restarting again. So simulator, and I will wait for it to start. Now after the simulator is started, we have to run the app in the simulator. So run and run without debugging, and make sure your simulator is selected below right here. This all tooling comes from the Flutter extension that we downloaded, so make sure you have that installed. Now after the app has started in the simulator, this is the default view that we get from Flutter, and this is a default app, and if you press this plus button, the count increases by 1. Now this is good, but we don't want to make a app like this. We want to make a Pokemon app. So how can we do that? So just ignore this for now and extend our VS Code for page, and then we want to start from scratch. So we will remove everything from here. So Control plus A or Command plus A, and hit backspace, and everything will be gone. Now we will start from scratch. So first of all, in the Dart file we want to import Flutter. So we will import Flutter package. So import, then package. Now the package's name is Flutter, and from Flutter we want to import the material Dart. Material is a UI library, and we will use material for iOS native apps. Cupertino is used, but in this case we will use material app. And now we will come down, and there are two kinds of states, or two kinds of widgets, stateful widgets and stateless widgets. So what are stateful and stateless widgets? So if something, say there is a counter, and you want to increment the counter, and that counter text updates anything in your Flutter UI, that in this case is right here. So if it, okay, we have just removed everything, so it will not show. So for example, we click the plus button and the counter increased and it updated in the UI. So that was a stateful widget because it changes the state of the UI. And a stateless widget is, you can say, a static widget that doesn't change in the runtime. So first of all, we want to return a material app that will return our home page. So it doesn't change anything. So our home page will be a default home page. So we want a stateless widget for that. So after adding a stateless widget, you can name it. So in this case, it will be our root of the app. So we will name it my app. And after naming it my app, we want to make it a material app because we have material UI. So we will return material app, and inside material app, it takes two things. First of all, it takes title, and the title will be a string. So you can give any title. I will name it Pokemon app. So Pokemon app, and it takes a home page that I just told. So to create a home page, first of all, you need to create a stateful widget now. So we will create a new widget. So if you just type STL, it will give an option for stateless and stateful widget. So you can select from them. So in this case, I want to stateful widget, so I will select stateful widget, and you can see it is a bit different from the stateless widget, but that's okay because it changes the state. It has some extra things. So here we will name it my home page. Now we have created a home page. Now we will save this, and we will come to our home in the material app, and we want to say our home page is my home page. So yes, this is now our home page, and in this now we want to come to the home page. So this is the home page, and for now it just returns a placeholder. We don't want that. We want it to return a text, and the text should say hello world. So we will say hello world. And yes, now we also want this text to be centered. So if we come to our simulator, you can just reload this. Okay, we did run the app. So in Dart, to run anything, we want to just tell it in the main function. So we will create a main function, void main, and inside the main void we will say run app, and we want to run the my app that we just created. So we will run the my app and end this line by a semicolon, and we will just again come right here and we will reload, and you can see that we have created the hello world text right here. It doesn't look good for now, but we will see that later on. So this is our hello world text, but you can see that it is not centered yet. So to center anything or to wrap, to center this text, there is a widget called center. But to add that center widget, now I have to completely remove this line, add the center widget, and as a child add this text. So that is not a good practice. So what you can do is you can right click the text, and here you will see an option called refactor. Just click on that refactor, and from here you will see many options to wrap with widget, wrap with specific widgets. So in this case you can just do wrap with widget or wrap with center. Because we want center, we will choose center from here. So if I choose wrap with center, you can see the center widget has already appeared right here, and the child of it is now our text that we just wrapped it inside. So to format any Flutter code, you can just put a comma beside two widgets. So this is the bracket of the center, and this is the bracket of the text. Now when this two bracket ends, we can just add a comma between them. So this will just format the code and it will look better now. You can do the same with the text if it is multi-line text, but for now, okay, this looks good. Now the code looks formatted, and okay, we get this blue lines because this is a static thing. So this is a static widget, so we can just make it a constant to increase the performance, and the material app is also a constant, so we can return a constant inside. Now if we save this and we jump again to our simulator, you can see hello world printed right here, and congratulations, you created your first hello world app. So now let's continue and design some UI right here. So let's get started. We have created the hello world text. Now what is happening right here is this text is very ugly. Like the foreground color is red and it has a yellow underline, and it's not looking good, and the background is also black, so it's not looking good. So to solve that, we have a widget called scaffold. So we will just right click on the center, refactor, and wrap with widget. Now in this case we don't have an option for scaffold there, so we will just wrap it with widget and name this widget scaffold. Now after naming it scaffold, you will get an error in the child. So the error is because the scaffold doesn't take child, it takes body. So instead return the body. And now if we save this, it has to just immediately change it to a white background, and the hello world text is now looking very much prettier. And now we can style everything inside the scaffold. So scaffold basically allows us to use the benefits of the material app. So till now we were just returning an app, but were not using the benefits of the material app. So inside the scaffold we are now using material app. So now let's just go through some important widgets that we need to create an app. So first widget is let's remove everything. So first and very important widget is a container. So a container basically contains a widget. So if we add a container, we can give a width and height to the container. So if we give it a width of 200 and height of 200. Now we know that this will be a square, but to give it a color, you can give it a decoration too. So to give it a decoration, you can, if you want to just give it a color, you can give color directly from the outside, directly from the container, and it will give a color. And to give a color, you can just access the colors, and from this you can enter your favorite color. So for me, I will enter red, and as you can see, it created a red box on the top. Now to center this, we will just right click it and then refactor, and we want to wrap this with widget, and we want to wrap this with center. So this will center this box, and now you can see we have created a small box of width 200 and height 200, and we set its color to red. Now we can just give it a decoration. So let's say we want its borders to be curved, so we want to access the border radius. So for that we want to give it some decoration. So we will remove the color from here, and instead we will add a decoration in the box, and we will add a box decoration. So box decoration, and in the box decoration we will first of all give it a color, and color will be again our red color. So colors dot red. So after doing this, let's add a comma to format the code. It doesn't make any change, but instead we added this color inside decoration. So in the decoration there are many properties, like we have border radius. So in the border radius we can change the border radius to border radius dot all, because we want to change the border radius on all sides, and then we want to change the radius to radius dot circular, and the radius will be 20. So what we did right here is we took all the borders and we changed the radius to circular, and we made it 20. And if you save it now, you see that immediately it changed its border radius to 20, and now it has curved corners. So this is how you can create some containers, and also you can give a child inside there. So let's say I want to add a text inside that container. So we will first add commas right here to format the code. Now because it is a static widget, so we will add a const here to make it constant, and we will come out of the decoration, which is right here, and we will add a child right here. So the container takes only one child, and in this case we want to add a text that says hello world, hello world. So here we go, we have a text hello world right here, and again we can center it, and in this case our containers width and height is 200. So the center will work only within the range of the container, which is the parent widget. So it will center it within the container. So to do that, we will just click on refactor, wrap with widget or wrap with center, and if you save this just now, command S, and here it is centered. So this is how you can just make a container. Now let's move on to a column and a row. Important widget, that is a column. So to add a column, we will remove first of all the decoration, and we will remove the child, that is center and its child text. So instead of the width of 200 and the height of 200, we will change it to double dot infinity. Double dot infinity. This simply means we want to take the full width of the device and double dot infinity in the height. So we will take the full height of the device, and then we want to give it a child, and in this case we want to see the column. So we will add a column, column, and inside this we will add children. So as it doesn't take only a single child, it takes many children as an array. So we will add children, and our first child will be text, and this text will say hello world. So we will add a text, and this text should say hello, and we will create another text which will say world. So they will be aligned vertically. So if we add a text and we give it world, so world, and we add a comma right here. So if you see on the top, it creates hello world, but it is not aligned vertically, so we can't see that. So to align that vertically, we have inside the column, you can't add a center in the column, it will not work. So to align it vertically, we can add inside the column main axis alignment will be main axis alignment dot center. Now if you add this, now you will see hello world is centered and hello and world are aligned vertically. So what we want to create two colored boxes right here. So what we will basically do is add a container. As a container we will give it a width of 200. So container, and inside container we want the width to be 200, we want height to be 200, and we want the color to be colors dot red, and we will just basically copy this, and we will paste it below this, and here you can see we have two containers, one beside the another. Now what we want to give some spacing between them, because now it seems that this is a big single box. So to give a spacing beside that, we have a widget called sized box. So if we create a size box of height 20, so we are giving a 20 height to the size box, and if we add a comma, then you can see the two boxes are separated, and now we can see the two boxes clearly. So this is how you can add some widgets. And if we just change it to row, so if I change the name to row, and if I save this, now you can see they are again two boxes, but aligned horizontally. So row aligns everything horizontally, and the column aligns vertically. Now after doing this, now instead of height we will give it a width of 20 to separate this, and you can see that it is separated, and these are two boxes aligned horizontally. So this is how you can create many widgets, one beside the another or one below the another. So this was row and columns. Now let's start, after understanding all the main widgets. Now let's start developing our app. First of all, we don't want this containers, so we will remove from the container till container, and as a child we will add just a text that for now we'll say hello world again, because we want to do some styling stuff again. So hello world, and we will add a comma right here. So we got the hello world again. Now we want to change the theme to black, and we want to remove this debug banner, and we want to add an app bar on the top that displays the title of our app, that is Pokédex. So we'll do these three things first. So what we want to do is just add a text which says hello world and return a constant for now, so it doesn't give that ugly blue lines. And now we will come on the top again, where we return the material app. Now to just disable this debug banner, it is very simple. Come in the material app, and before the title type debug, and it will give an option for debug show checked mode banner. Just hit enter and make it false, and that's it. It will remove the debug banner. And for the dark theme, we want to give a theme data. So you can either do theme mode.dark, this will do, or we can do one more thing. We can set the theme to theme data dot dark, and this will make everything dark. And what's the error right here? Let's see.
And if we come here, and isn't a constant vector. So
what is the error? That after making the theme mode to dark, it is no more a constant. So we will just remove the constant from here, and you can see it made it dark. And also after this, doing this, and the my home page widget is still a constant. So instead we can add a constant right here in the home, and this will not give the blue lines. So what we did is we made the theme mode to dark, we made the title to Pokemon app, and we set our home page to a constant, and also we disabled the check mode banner. So now it looks very good and neat. Now what we want to do is we want to just add an app bar. So to add an app bar, if we come to our app again, now app bar is not a part of the body, so app bar will be definitely out of the body. So if we come out of the body in the scaffold, and we can add an app bar, which is, as it sounds, app bar, and in the app bar it takes title. So we can give a title to the app bar. So title will be something like text, so constant and constant, so constant and text, and this text will be Pokédex. Now it again gives an error. Let's see what's the error. So to check the error, we can just hover over that, and we can scroll to see the error.
So we have added again const right here. So if we remove the const from here, so if we remove
the const from the top, which is here, it will just remove this error, and the center is still a constant, so we will add a constant in the center as well. So now you can see, after we save it, we have created the app bar, we have gave it a title, and in the title the text is Pokédex. So it has created a title in the app bar, and now it has gave the text of Pokédex. So now we can start designing our cards, Pokemon cards, which are right here. And before that, we will need to fetch the data from a JSON file, for which the download link is in the description. So you can just take that JSON file, and in the next part we will just play with that JSON file. In the folder of this course, of this project, inside our finder, and let's paste that package or Pokemon data file. I have gave the download link in the description. It will be inside the GitHub repository, so just download it from there. So I have already copied it. So after coming to the project directory, go to the lib folder again, and in the lib folder paste that Pokemon data.json file. So now we have that Pokemon data, and I have took it from a website, I think it's named Pokemon DB. I will give the link in description, so you can play with that. So to make everything simple, I have manually created a list of 10 Pokemons, so to be simple in this mini course. Now we have imported the JSON file. Now we know that the JSON file is imported in the project, but Flutter doesn't know till now that it is imported. So to let Flutter know that it is imported, Another important file is in the root directory, that is pubspec.yaml file. So if we just click on the pubspec.yaml file, I will extend this window, and here you can see there are the SDK Flutter is installed from here, and everything that is in our Flutter project is told right here. So what we want to do is our JSON file will act as an asset right here. So here in the assets we will remove these comments. So we will just remove these comments, and we will just remove this default things. And in the assets we want to import our Pokemon data.json. So what we will do is we will say lib slash Pokemon data.json, and now after doing this we will save this, and this will import this Pokemon data.json file in our Flutter project, so we can use this inside the code. So now after importing, just close that YAML file and come again to our code, and now I will again minimize this window. Now what we want to do is again come in the main.dart file. Now we want to create a function that fetches our data from the JSON file. So to do that we will just come inside the widget and stateful widget, and we will create a new future void. So future, and it will be a void, so it will be of type void. So future is just like async await function. So okay, so we will name it fetch data, and want to fetch the data from this, and it will be an async function because we want to fetch the data. And after creating this function, the first thing we want to do is to create a response. So final, and this will be of type string, and it will be response, and our response will be root bundle dot load string. That means it will load the JSON file as a string, and then the JSON file is at the directory lib, and Pokemon data dot JSON. Now after doing this, here you can see there it is showing an error. Let's see what's the error. So yes, it should be await instead. So instead add await right here, and this should remove the error. I will just maximize this window. So what we did here is we created a response, and we added an await, and we want to load the Pokemon data.json file as a string. And now we will end this line, and we will come to a new line. Now we want to pass this data as a JSON. So we will say final data will be await, and we want to say that JSON decode, so it will decode the response as JSON, and we want to say that the data is in the response variable. So we create the data. Now we want to set state the Pokemons variable to the data. So we will create some Pokemons, list of Pokemons. So we will come here on the top, and we will create a list that is Pokemons, and it will be an empty list for now. And now after doing this, we got the data. Now what we want to do is to get the data of all Pokemon. So if we come in our JSON file, we see that inside the JSON file, the first thing we have is a list, and this list is named Pokemons, and inside this there are all the Pokemons right here. So what we will do is we will come again in the main.dart file, and we will say set state. Now set state simply means that we want to change something, or we want to change the variable, update something, update a variable. So to update this variables, we want to update the Pokemons variable, and we will set it to data, and data will be Pokemons inside the data. So this data is simply the whole JSON file. So what we did is we took only the Pokemon list from the data, so we only have the Pokemons. And now after doing this, we will just print the Pokemons variable to check if it works. And now we haven't called this function, so we will need to call this fetch data function. So to call it, there is a init state function in Flutter. So init state. Now what is init state? Init states run when you just start the app for the current scene. So Okay, so what it will do is when the app starts, it will just load our JSON file, that is in this case our fetch data function. So we will come here below the init state and we will say fetch data, and we will close this line. And now after doing this, we will minimize this, we will reload our app, and if we just pick it up, and you can see that it has loaded all our Pokemon data from the JSON file. That means we have successfully fetched the data from our JSON file. Now we have to start styling our UI. To start coding our Pokemon card, so we will just minimize this and we will start coding our Pokemon card. So in this case we will need a center, and this center, you know what this center do. And as a child of center, we want a material. Now what is a material? So material will simply in this case help us to give elevation to the container, so it gives a shadow effect below the container as we saw in the preview. So what we will do is we will give it an elevation, and we will give it an elevation of 20. Now after we have the elevation in the material, we will say border radius. As we have added the styling in the material, we have to also give the border radius inside the material itself. So we will say that in the border radius it will be as we did in the last part, border radius dot all, and radius will be radius dot circular. So radius dot, okay, the spelling is wrong, so radius dot circular, and it will be something like 20. And after adding this, just add a comma and come out of here, and it says that try. Okay, I have made a mistake right here, border radius dot all, not border dot all. So now it will solve the error, and it is constant again. And here we go, we have created the border radius. Now we want to give it a child. The material style will be a container, and this container is a little hard to code in the compared of what we learned. So width will be, now we want this container to take a specific width in any device. So we will say width will be media query. Media query is just we are telling the device to give its width and height. So media query, and okay, why it's giving like this, media query, which is like this, query dot of context. This simply means that we are, okay, I am just doing it in simple, so don't take it seriously. I am just telling random things to explain what it does. So in this case, what in simply we are telling that media query of this device will be we want to take the size of this device, and from the size we want to take the width of the device, and we want to subtract 40. So we don't take the whole width of the container, instead we want to leave a space of 40, and it's no more a constant. So we will remove the constant right here because media query is not a constant, and we will add a constant in the border radius. Now after doing this, you can see it created a container. It is not very clear right now, but it is, you can see it created a container with 40 or width of media query dot size, and we subtracted 40, so it subtracted 40 from here. And we want to create an height, and in this height we want to say media query dot of context, that means of this device, and we want to take the size of this device, and from the size we want to take the height, and from the height we want to subtract 540. So we don't want much height, so we will subtract 540, and you can see this created a container right here. So yeah, this created a cool container, and it gives an elevation or a shadow effect below this. So this is because the material, and inside the material that we added the elevation, and you can also see border radius is 20. So yes, this looks good. Now if we save this, now we can just add some children inside this. To add a children, as a child of this container, we will add a column. So as a child of this container, we will add a column, and this column will contain some children. So children, and inside this children, the first child should be our image, the image of our Pokemon. So for now we will just center it first. So this image should be centered, and as a child we want an image from the network. because if you see our JSON file, it has the image URL and not the image directly. So we will just, for we are creating a demo card, so we will just copy this image. And by the way, this is a Bulbasaur, so we will copy this image URL of Bulbasaur. Now we will create image dot network, because we are taking it from a URL. If you are taking it from your directory, so you will need to take image.asset and you will need to import it in the pubspec.yaml file as an asset. So we did it with the JSON file, so it is all the same. Now we want to create the image.network, and here instead of src we want to give the URL of that image. Now after giving yes, you can see that Bulbasaur image appeared right here. So what in the later we will do, that we will pass this as a variable, so we can just generate many Pokemons, and we don't want to hard code this. So now after adding this, the second thing we want to do is to add a size box. So here we will add a size box, so constant, and it will be a size box, and the height of this size box will be something like 30 to give it a proper height between the title and the Pokemon. And now it's giving an error. So what's the error? Too many positional hierarchies, 0 expected. Okay, instead of the column, we added it in the center, so cut it from here and add it after the center, that is inside the column, and this should work. And there are 2 commas, so add 1 comma and 1 comma right here. So we have added a size box, but it didn't change because we have not added something after the size box. So after the size box we want a text, so we will say center a text. Now here comes the complicated part, so we will add a child, that is a text, and as a text we will say a Pokemon name. So for now it will be Bulbasaur, and we will add a comma, so it added a Bulbasaur text right here. Now what we want to do is want to give it some styling. So to add some styling, add a style in the text. So inside the text add a style, and in the style we want the style to be a text style as it is a text. And now inside the text style, now comes the main part. So what we want is this font should be bold, so font weight should be bold. So font weight will be font weight dot bold. So this will make this font a little bolder, as you can see. Now we want to change the font size, so font size, and font size will be 40. So to okay, this looks perfect. Now we want to give it some grayish background. So to make a background in text, it is like we want to paint a background. So to paint a background, we will give it a background and we want to paint it, so we will add a paint widget. Now in the paint widget we have to just change some properties here and there. So you saw here it created a background, but it is not painted as we want. So what we will do here is we will just paint it as we want. So to paint from the paint widget, you need to add double dots right here, and here you can access all the properties of the paint. So now we want to paint it a color of gray. So color, and set it to colors dot gray like this, and with opacity, so we don't want it to be a dark gray, so we want to change its opacity. So colors dot gray dot with opacity, and the opacity should be 0.5. so it is okay, this looks perfect, the color is perfect. Now what we want is we want to stroke it, so we don't want the middle part to show, but we only want the borders. So dot style dot style will be stroke. So what is wrong right here? Okay, the comma will not be there if you are editing properties. So dot style, 2 dots and then style, and then this style will be painting style dot stroke, so it will just show the borders. As you saw, the middle part has just gone and we have just borders right here. Now what we want is we want to stroke the width of 48, so we want to extend this stroke to 48. So it is a very thin line right now. We want to extend this line to 48 pixels, so it covers our whole text. So we will say stroke width, and again don't add a comma right here, stroke width, and we want to extend it to 48 pixels. And here we go, we have created a background. So if we just decrease the size of this, so let's say we add 38 instead of 48, so you see that we have extended the border, but we can see the middle part right here which is still open. So what we did here is we basically created a border, and we closed the border by extending its size greater than the font size, so it doesn't look like we have added the border. So for UI designing you have to do these things to make look realistic. So after doing this, you can see that we have added a cool background. Now inside this we will need to add a stroke join, and because we want this to be round and not sharp edges, so we will say stroke join, that is the point where this will join, and we will set it to, okay, where I made the mistake. So okay, I added just one dot instead of two, so stroke join, and this stroke join will be stroke join dot round. Now what we did here is basically we just made the edges round, and this looks perfect. Now this was a little hard part because we did nothing right here. We made a paint, and we just tweaked these values to make it what we wanted. We just changed the color and changed the opacity of the color. Then we changed the style to, so it just shows the border. Now we made a border little bit thicker so it covers the whole text, and then we made it round at the border. So that's just what we did. And here we go, we have created our card, and now what we want is to separate this card from our main .dart file, because we can't add this whole card again and again and copy and paste that. So what we will do, from this right here, from the material, so from this center till, from this center till right here, we will copy the whole thing, and we will separate this widget in a new file. So we will create a new file, and we will name it Pokemon underscore card, and make it a Dart file. Now here we will need to import Flutter, so import package. Now it will be Flutter and material dot Dart. Now after importing Flutter, we want to create a stateless widget, so STL. Now in the stateless widget, we want to name it Pokemon card. Now after naming it, instead of the placeholder, paste the whole column or whole container that we copied from there, and instead of comma, end it with a semicolon, and save this. Now after saving this, you need to access this in the main.dart file. So in the main.dart file, we will just import this. So we want to import now we want to import the Pokemon.dart file, so Pokemon.dart, and that's what basically it takes to import that file. And in the body, now what we can do here is we can say Pokemon card, and this will do our job. So what we did is we separated the Pokemon card in a separate file, and we named it Pokemon card. Now in the main.dart file, we took the Pokemon card, we imported the Pokemon card, and we accessed the Pokemon card right here. So this was basically it. Now what we want is we want to pass the name and the image URL through the through the widget. So what we can do here is we can pass the URLs. So what we can do here is, in the Pokemon card, we can create some variables. So final string. So final is used when you are passing something. Basically this is where I use it. So image URL, so we will pass the image URL. Then we want to pass final, and again string, and Pokemon name, and again we want to pass final, again a string, and this will be Pokemon description. So okay, this is it. Now we want to pass it through the Pokemon card. So inside this, this is just shows how it is passed. So inside this, after super.key, enter a comma, and here enter all the things that we entered this now. So this dot image URL. Now we want this dot Pokemon name, and we also want this dot Pokemon description, and add a comma. So what we did is basically imported everything and it gives an error.
What is the error? Can't have a value of 10 because of its type. And okay, so it can't be null for now. So we will just let it be 8 now because we are not using. So what we will do is inside the
Right here where we add the image URL, instead of the giving the whole URL, we will just select it from here till here and we will add an image URL right here. Now it still gives the error. Let me check what's the error, because
okay.
the error is because we will need to pass it as a requirement. So it should be required this would, because it is necessary to pass this, else it will give an error. So required, and everything is required right here. If you don't add this, it will give an error. So required, so we add a required beside all of this so it doesn't give an error. And after the image URL, we added, instead of image URL pasting it right here, I added the image URL variable instead. And then after instead of the Bulbasaur text, we will just add Pokemon name right here. And okay, that's it for now. And in the main.dat file, now it gives an error in the Pokemon card. That's because we didn't give a Pokemon name. So Pokemon name will be Bulbasaur. So Bulbasaur, and Pokemon image URL. So image URL will be, we will copy it from here. So we will copy the whole image URL from here till here, copy this and come to the main.dat file and paste it instead of here, and make sure to add it in double quotation marks because it is a string. Now after adding the URL, you want a description. So for now, add a random description. So Pokemon description will be Bulbasaur is a good Pokemon. So for now it doesn't display descriptions right here, so you can add a random description, and this will not make any difference. But now you have a Pokemon card widget that you just created. So you created a custom widget that is a Pokemon card, and you can access Pokemon card anywhere. Now in this you can just change the value. So like I want this to be Pikachu, so Pikachu, and okay, now you see it updates in real time, so I don't have to make a large code to do this. So yeah, this is our Pokemon card. Now let's create many Pokemon cards right here in a list and add all the values in that Pokemon card coded, and we have the list of all Pokemon. So why not create a list where we show all the Pokemons? So to do that, we will just remove this default Pokemon card that we created, and in the body instead we will add a single child scroll view. So this basically adds a scrolling to our widgets that take many children. So in this case we want the scroll direction to be axis.vertical, and this will add a vertical scrolling, and our card disappeared because we removed that, and add a comma here to just format the code perfectly. Now I will just remove this. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to just add multiple we want to add a child of this single child scroll view, and instead of column I will add a wrap, and I will show what does wrap do. So wrap is basically used when you want to wrap multiple widgets inside a single widget, and you want to give some spacing between them, because you can't give, you have to give manual spacing by size box in the column. So in the wrap you have I will show you just now. So now what we want to do is we want to, in the wrap we want to give it a run spacing. So run spacing is basically how much spacing you want to give it vertically, that is run spacing, and it is 20, and you don't need to give size box right now, you have automatically gave it a spacing. So now in the children we want to take the Pokemons, so we want to say Pokemons, and we want to loop through them. So in that we have .map, so we want to map through all the Pokemons, and we want to create a Pokemon card from that Pokemons. So we will create a Pokemon cards from that Pokemon, and also we will just fill these values. Before we will just format the code by adding a comma right here and saving this. So now we created a Pokemon card, and in the image now we have a single Pokemon right here. So this is basically the e that we are getting is passing is this value from here till here, so it gets till here. So now we want to get the name, image and description, and that's it to create all the Pokemons. So the image URL will be e, and we want to take image URL from there, so image URL, and the Pokemon name will be e, but it will be name, and in the Pokemon description it will be e, but it will be description, so it will pass the description also. And here we are getting an error because we are passing it as a list, and again we are passing a list, so it becomes list inside a list, that is a 2D list. So what we can do here is we have a spread operator in Dart. So if you add 3 dots before this, so what it will basically do is it will spread this, so now it will be single Pokemon card instead of a list. So if you save it, now you see you get all the Pokemons in a list, and it was because of this single line of code, or not a single line, but this much code is makes us to like create. We have created the whole list of Pokemons from that JSON file, and it looks perfect. As you can see, it is looking very good. So now what we want to do is, if we click this, we want to redirect to the page where we see more details about this Pokemon. So let's go to that page. So now what we want to do is we want to make this card clickable, so we can click it, and for now we can't click it for your kind information. So we want to click it, and we want to redirect to another page. So let's do that. So to do that, we will just right click on the center, and we will refactor, and we will wrap it with a widget. In this case it will be inkwell. So what does inkwell does is it allows us to tap on a widget. So it if we type on right here, you can see there are many things on tap, on hover, on long press, so you can access this all properties. So in this case we want to access the tap property. So on tap, what we want to do is we want to print the name of this a name of the card that we are name of the Pokemon of the card that we are clicking. So we will just print the Pokemon name, and we will say okay. We will close this, and we will say click, and we will add a plus right here, and okay. So what we will do is we will print click, then we will print the Pokemon name. Now if we come here and we come down and we clear the console, now if we click any let's say I click Bulbasaur, so it has printed click Bulbasaur. Let's go down, scroll and go down, and let's click Pikachu. So if we click Pikachu, it says click Pikachu, so that means we are able to click our card. So as you can see, it gives an effect of click right here, so that is also very good. So now what we can do right here is we can just redirect to another page. So let's go to that page first, and we will come again, and we will navigate to that page and pass these variables that we have. So let's start coding the next name of the Pokemon that we click. Now we want to just go to the page of the information of that particular Pokemon. So let's create a new page from here. So in the library I will create a new page, Pokemon page.dart file. I will import Flutter, so import package Flutter and material.dart, and after doing this we want to create a stateless widget. So we will name it Pokemon page, and in this let's say we want to pass all the okay. So first of all we will return a scaffold because it is a whole new page, so we will need a scaffold in this. Now in the scaffold we want to just create an app bar. So let's create an app bar and make an app bar, and in the app bar we want to set the title. So title will be a text, and in the text we want to just keep the text to Pokemon name. So we have not passed this variable, so let's pass this variable. So to pass this variable we will come again on the top, and we will create 3 things. Final, this will be a string, and Pokemon image, then final string, then Pokemon name, and again a final string, Pokemon description. So after creating these three variables, we want to pass them after the super dot key. So we will say required this dot Pokemon image, then required this dot Pokemon name, and in the last required this dot Pokemon description. Now after doing these things, we will need to come here again. So in the new screen, we will show app bar. In the app bar, the name will be of that particular Pokemon's name. So let's come again to the Pokemon card, and we will just remove this print statement from here. We will just remove this, and we will say that we want to navigate to the Pokemon page screen. So we'll say navigator. So we want to access the navigator, and we want to say dot push. So it will be this page will be pushed and another page will pop up. So push, and the context will be the same, and the route will be material page route. So this is the syntax that Flutter uses to just navigate. So we will add this. Okay, now we want to pass a builder. So in the builder, this is a function. So first we will pass a context, and then we want to give a page. So in this case, our page is Pokemon page. So to go to that page, first of all we will need to import that page. So import then Pokemon page dot file. After importing this, we have the access to Pokemon page. So what we will do is Pokemon page, and it takes some values. So Pokemon image will be image URL, Pokemon name will be same, and the Pokemon description will be the same. Let's add some commas to format the code, and here we go. So what we do is we just navigate to the Pokemon page, and we just set these values to the current values that we have. So now if you save, and if we click Bulbasaur, you can see the app title is Bulbasaur, and we get the back button by default from Flutter. So this is good. So now if I click some other Pokemon, let's say Pidgey. So if I click this, we are redirect to another page, and the title is Pidgey. So now our navigation works. Now let's start coding the UI of this page. So let's start with the Pokemon page. So first of all, let's add a body in the scaffold. So body, and it will be a column because everything should be aligned vertically. And let's give some children to the column. And in the children, first child will be aspect ratio. So aspect ratio is basically helps us to maintain a particular aspect ratio no matter what the size of the screen is. So for that we use the aspect ratio widget, and inside the aspect ratio we will give a child. So child will be an network image, so image dot network, and in this we will give the URL. So we have the URL passed already, so we will use Pokemon image variable to get the URL. And after doing this, we will need to add a fix. So fit will be box fit, and it has many values. So it can fit in the screen according to which value we give it. So let's say we give it a value of cover. So it will cover the whole aspect ratio that we gave 1 by 1. So it will cover the whole aspect ratio of 1 by 1. So that's what we want. Now after the aspect ratio, we want to give a text to display the Pokemon name. So text, and this will be the text of Pokemon name again. So let's add Pokemon name, and inside after this we want to give the style to the text. So let's add a style, and style will be a text style. So let's add a text style, and inside the text style, first of all we will give a font weight of bold. So font weight equals to font weight dot bold, and again we need to come down, and we want to give font size, and this should be a larger font. So we will give font size to 54. Okay, this looks good, and this is a constant, it will not change in the future. So let's add a const right here. Now after doing this, we will add again a comma right here, and we will come down. Now we want to create description. So to create a description, we first need to add a size box to give spacing. So sized box, and the size box will have a height of something like 20. Let's add a comma here, and okay, perfect. Now after the size box, we need some padding, and inside the padding we will add the description. so it doesn't look to that it is fitting the screen. So let's add a padding. So padding is just used to add some padding in the screen. It has no other use. So let's add a padding of add insets dot all. So const add insets dot all means we want this, or simply means we want to give the padding on all sides. There is another that is only, and in the only you can give padding to some sides like left, right or top. We want to give it to all the sides, so we will say 20.0, add a comma right here and right here. So okay, now after doing this we want to give a child to the padding, so we'll come again to the padding and we will give it a child. And as a child of padding, as I said, we will have a text which will be description, so Pokemon description. So after doing this we will want to give it some alignment. So alignment is directly from the text, we don't need text style for the alignment, so just add text align and it will be text align dot center, and this will center the description. And also now we want to give the styling, so style, and it will be a text style and it will not change, so we will add a const before and text style. And first of all the font weight, so font weight will be font weight dot w500. So what it does is basically there are many w values, so you can choose between them to just select a perfect weight for your font. So in this case w500 is good. I did the trial and error. And font size, let's set it to 24 pixels. And after doing this, now we need to make the last button that just basically redirects us to more info. And for this tutorial I have kept it simple, so we will just create the button and not give it some functionality. So let's add a const sized box, and inside the size box let's give a height of 20 again to maintain the sequence. And we will come again, and inside this we will create again a size box to give a size to the button. And this time we will give width to again media query, so media query dot of this device, so dot of font text dot size, and we want to take the width from the size, and the width will be subtracted by 16. And also we want to give a height, so height will be a constant right here, so height will be 60. And this will work for us. And we want to give a child to the size box, so the child of the size box will be an elevated button. And elevated button is simply a button that is it will look like this, but it will act as a button. So what we will do is we will create an elevated button, and elevated button takes two things. One is on press, that is if we press the button, and second is a child of this, so child. And in the child we want to give a text that says more info, so we will create a text, so text, and the text should say more info. And we will give a text style to it, so style. I'll just remove this big block. Okay, so let's give a style to it, so style will be text style, and the text style will contain the font size of the more info text, so font size, and the font size will be 28. Now it gives an error. Okay, I took the style outside of the image, outside of the text, so let's paste the style right here and this should work. Now after doing this we want to give the style to the button as well. So to give some style to the button, we will come right here in the more info. After the more info we will say we want to give it a style, so style, and the style will be elevated button. So because this is an elevated button, we will take the style from elevated button. So I'll just remove this, so elevated button dot style from, so it takes all the style from the elevated button. Now we want to give some styling to it, so what we will do is we will come here and we will say we want to change the background color to colors dot gray, and we want to make it look like this one, so we will say dot with opacity, So with opacity, and we will give a opacity of 0.5 as we did right there, and it gives an error. So let's see what's the error. So after this it says the argument type button style can't be assigned to the parity. Okay, what we did is we by mistake I added the style to the text, so we will just cut this style from the text and we will paste it after the on pressed. My bad. So this is button style, so we'll paste it after the on pressed, and this style is for the button and this style is for the text. So after we save this, I think okay, we are done with the styling. So if we save the Pokemon page and if we come again to our app, let's do one thing, let's reload the app. So after we reload the app, we will come again to the app. Okay, I think my app is stuck. Let's reload again, and yes, there we go. Okay, so if I click Bulbasaur, okay, perfect, it shows Bulbasaur, it gives the image of the Bulbasaur, it gives a description and more info button. If we can go back and we can just click another Pokemons, and it displays their description, title, and it also the app bar. We can go back and we can click on another Pokemon. So here we go, we have completed the app. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and make sure to give some other app ideas in the description or in the comments, so I can just make new videos for you. And that's it, thanks for watching.